What the heck is metabolic syndrome, and do you have it? You know, there's a good chance, even if you don't, a loved one does. What's shaking, bacon? My name is Bruno Panucci. I've been doing this carnivore diet on and off for many years, but I've been doing it consistently for about 13 months. One of the things that was kind of holding me back from doing this consistently was my gout. And I've gotten into that in old videos, but to just summarize, I was trying to figure out how to manage my gout for years and years and years. Now, I've been trained in anatomy and physiology and pathology, so I understood gout, but I still did a lot of research on my own to try and manage it. And all of it was just the mainstream advice I was always getting. And I eventually came across an article that talked about a link, just a correlation between metabolic syndrome and gout. Metabolic syndrome gave people an increased risk of gout attacks. So if they had just marginally high uric acid levels, they could get plagued with gout attacks. But other people who didn't have metabolic syndrome could have 3 or 4 times the levels of gout that they're supposed to have in their body and would have never gotten plagued with it once. Why is that? They figured it was because one group had metabolic syndrome most often and the other group didn't. Now, there's no studies to prove this, but there are correlations. But what is metabolic syndrome? So I looked into it a little bit more, and it turned out I had metabolic syndrome. And metabolic syndrome was aggravating my gout. But I found out I could manage one of those 5 issues of metabolic syndrome right away. And that's what I did, and that was the last time I had a gout attack. And that's what made it possible for me to start continuing with carnivore without having to go through that hurdle of ridiculous gout attacks almost daily plaguing me. So there's 5 symptoms to metabolic syndrome. But if you test positive for 3 of the 5 symptoms of metabolic syndrome, you're diagnosed with metabolic syndrome. So you might already know what your status is with lots of these problems right off the bat before you even have to talk to your doctor to get diagnosed. And this is actually one of those things that's pretty easy for you to figure out on your own if you already know this information. But I do recommend you talk to your doctor if you're worried about having metabolic syndrome and what you can do to manage it better. This is what worked for me to manage my metabolic syndrome. So the first thing is a large waistline. Having a waistline of over 40 inches for a man or 35 inches for a woman is one of the 5 issues if you have metabolic syndrome. I think that's a very general term though. Think about that. If they're basing that on an average height of a man who's maybe 5'10", maybe that's what average height is, maybe 5'11" is considered average height. Well, I'm 6'1". A 40-inch waist isn't the same for me as it is for a 5'10" or 11 man. And it's definitely not the same as it is for a guy who's 5'7". A 40-inch waist is gonna look way different on that 5'7" guy than it does on me at 6'1". Yes, I'm technically over 40 inches and I'm gonna make sure I get down to under 40 inches before I scratch that one off the list. But I've made some big changes in that area and we're gonna go over that in a little bit. The second issue is elevated triglycerides. 150 milligrams per deciliter or higher. Your doctor can figure that out with blood work if you don't already know that. But chances are if your cholesterol is really bad, you probably have high triglycerides. If you have lots of these other health issues and you're overweight, there's a good chance you have high triglycerides. If you have low HDL, high density lipoproteins, so there's 2 types of cholesterol, the good cholesterol and the bad cholesterol, so to speak. And the good cholesterol is the one they're worried about. The HDL is considered the good cholesterol. The LDL is considered the bad cholesterol. All you need to remember to keep that locked in your head is H for healthy, and you got it. HDL is your healthy cholesterol. High blood pressure is another symptom of metabolic syndrome. Now, the great thing about that is you can get that tested at a pharmacy. So you don't even have to have your own machine or go to a doctor's office. Keep in mind, when you get tested for your blood pressure, if you've been walking, especially if you're an overweight person, or you're not an active person, and you get up and walk from point A to point B, even if it's only 20 or 30 feet, when you sit down, your blood pressure is gonna be elevated. An accurate blood pressure recording should be done probably 10 minutes or 5 minutes after you sit down. It's not accurate when you first sit down. So when you go to your doctor and they measure your blood pressure right away, you tell them you want it measured again before the end of the session. And that way you've been sitting for a little bit and you're gonna get a more accurate reading, and it should be lower most typically, or even after just the first 5 minutes of just sitting down. So when you sit in one of those machines at a pharmacy to get your blood pressure taken, take it 2 or 3 times. Give yourself a few minutes in the machine, unless you're causing a lineup, then that's just being rude. High blood sugar. Now you can get that measured at your doctor's office, your fasting blood sugar, or you can go to your local pharmacy and just get equipment to test your own blood sugar. So back in 2020, I came across that article that talked about the association and the link between metabolic syndrome and gout. And sure enough, I had all 5 of those issues and a lot of other health problems. I looked at those 5 things in that list and I looked and I thought, which one of these can I manage now? And blood sugar was the one I could literally manage right then and there. All the other ones take time to do on your own, or even with medication. You know, by the time you get to your doctor and get medications to manage those things, I wanted to do it medication free. Blood pressure takes time to correct. Your triglycerides take time to correct. Your cholesterol takes time to correct. Your waistline often takes time to correct. But the one thing you can correct that very minute is your blood sugar. So they usually look at your fasting blood sugar. And my fasting blood sugar, whenever I would start carnivore, would go down to like an even 5, 5.1. It was really steady. But I thought, wait a minute, is it possible that my metabolism is so far gone and damaged that my blood sugar is normal, but I still get sugar spikes when I eat? And that's what's screwing over my insulin. My insulin was just so sensitive from being overweight for so long, and I'm still overweight, but I was ridiculously overweight at the time. Whenever I ate, my insulin would just go out of whack. Managing my blood sugar managed my insulin spikes. Managing my insulin spikes helped control my metabolism. Controlling my insulin helped me to lose weight. So just by managing my blood sugar right then and there, that very day, that was the last time I had a gut attack. Now, it might not work the same for you. And how did I manage it? I went out and I got this product. It's a natural product called berberine. And berberine lowers your blood sugar spikes when you eat. So you take it before a meal or with a meal, depending on which label you're reading on the jar. It's also good for some other health issues as well. I'm not trying to promote berberine. Your doctor might want to give you metformin. Metformin is a product that the pharmaceutical company created that basically does the same thing as berberine. As much as I could possibly help it, I wanted to not be on medications. I knew starting this carnivore diet and being able to stick with it would balance all these other health problems eventually, if not sooner than later. So I wanted to really try and manage these on my own. So I started with the blood sugar. As I was losing weight, my waistline was getting better. So I was once well into the mid-50s for my waistline, and now I'm at a 46. I'm getting to a loose 46 waistline. So I'm actually getting down closer to like a 44. I'm sort of in between. I would say the next thing on the list that a carnivore diet corrected for me was my blood pressure. Now, my blood pressure always gets better when I do a carnivore diet, and then being consistent on a carnivore diet, it's been consistently good. So I found my heart rate and my blood pressure correct within a couple months. Actually, more so within a month of doing this carnivore diet. There's a noticeable difference. And it's probably because it tends to manage the inflammation in the body when you do a carnivore diet. So without carbohydrates, the inflammation goes away for the most part. Now, high triglycerides, those got corrected when I started a carnivore diet. And for the first time in years, my triglycerides were in a good range, and they continue to go down. They tended to go up a little bit when I started my Lion diet, but nonetheless, overall, they're still in a good range. I would say my HDL is probably the toughest one for me to manage. When you have hypothyroidism, as I do, it screws with your cholesterol. So I've had long bouts of working out. I've had good, clean diets, and my good cholesterol at best barely goes into the normal range. It's at best low-end normal, but it's in the normal range at the moment. And it's like that whenever I do carnivore. And when they put me on cholesterol medication, my good cholesterol goes down. So I don't want that. So on this carnivore diet, I've managed 4 of my 5 symptoms, and they've completely gone away. Often if people are starting a carnivore diet, and especially if they're doing it because they're overweight, there's a good chance you have at least 3 of these symptoms. So it's not a bad idea to start managing this now. And carnivore for me was a great way to do it. Now, it might be good for you, but you won't know unless you try. But when you try this way of eating, you want to set yourself up for success. So you might want to look at some of my other videos or some other people on the internet that have started a carnivore diet and have been successful with keeping it going. It's all about consistency. You know, when you're constantly tripping yourself up with cheats and treats, it's just, you're not going to get all the results you should get. You might get some results, but you're just going to discourage yourself because you keep resetting. Consistency is key. So there are other ways you can manage some of these issues. Exercise. That will manage your blood pressure. That'll manage your HDL, especially if you're doing weight-bearing exercise. It will help your waistline, and exercise lowers your blood sugar immediately. If you decide to take berberine, make sure if you're already on metformin, you talk to the doctor about that, because you don't want to start taking something like that that might interfere with your medications. But if you're not on any medications and you just want to try it as a supplement, it might not be a bad way to go. Taking omega-3 fatty acids is another good thing. If you're doing carnivore, you know what? Just buy the pills. I recommend, and I'm not getting endorsed for this at all, I recommend cod liver oil. Now, up here in Ontario and Canada, they have a good quality cod liver oil. It's on the expensive side, but I find I only have to take it every 2 days. So a bottle lasts a long time. And don't worry, it doesn't have a fishy taste. It actually has lemon flavoring to it. So it's just like drinking a little bit of oil, but it doesn't leave your throat feeling gunky afterwards. But I'll tell you what it does do. Some of the side effects you notice, the positive side effects you notice from taking a cod liver oil, omega-3 fatty acid, is within the first month, especially when it's a good quality one like a cod liver oil, your hair grows faster. It grows thicker and shinier. Your skin doesn't get dry over the winter. You can start doing this now, and I can guarantee your dry skin will start going away. The more you take products to put on your skin to moisturize them, the more you're robbing your body from the ability to do it on its own. So it just stops because you're handling it from an outside source. It's like when you put chapstick on. After a while, you always have to use chapstick because your lips are always going to be chapped. If you start taking omega-3 fatty acids, especially a good quality one, that issue goes away and you won't have any dryness in the winter. I always used to have dry patches on my elbows and hands because I wash my hands so much through the day because I'm a massage therapist. That completely goes away whenever I stay steady with my cod liver oil. And one of the other benefits is it makes your nails thick and strong. So you ladies will like that. I find what I like about it isn't necessarily my nails, because it means I have to cut my nails more frequently. But what happens is I don't get nearly as many hangnails when I take my cod liver oil. So there's lots of different fish oils to take. I recommend the cod liver oil. And for me, every second day works great. In the winter, I try and get more, maybe taking it every day, because it's just a drier climate and I want the benefits of that for my skin. Those are the exterior benefits you notice. But what it also does is it helps transport essential nutrients all through your body because you're giving yourself the good cholesterol. I'll do another whole video on the importance of good cholesterol and why you should have omega-3 fatty acids in your diet. Getting good quality sleep is another thing. Now, the beautiful thing about doing a carnivore diet is snoring is often one of the issues that people have when they're overweight. Often when people start a carnivore diet, it gets rid of their snoring within a couple of weeks. Now, it doesn't mean you're immune to snoring. You know, there's a good chance if you're sleeping and breathing through your mouth, you're probably going to snore. But something that's popular that Kelly Hogan has tried, and she's really recommended this to a lot of people and they've had success with it, is mouth taping, where you put a little bit of tape on your mouth at night. So the important thing to remember is metabolic syndrome is a group of separate health problems that when put together all create one very serious problem for you that is associated with gout, which is associated with heart disease, stroke, a multitude of other health problems. Often when people have metabolic syndrome, they also have a lot of other health problems, but those are the 5 we want to manage. So of course, HIIT exercises are always a great way to go. High intensity interval training exercises, short bursts of intense exercise followed up with rest, and then more bursts of intense exercise. Jump squats are a great thing to do. Push-ups are a great thing to do. Sprinting is a great thing to do. So sprinting and resting and sprinting and resting, that works really well. That's exactly how they train. And look at how jacked sprinters are compared to, say, long distance runners. Long distance, steady state cardio eats at your metabolism. You don't want that. You want short bursts of intense exercise. And if it's weight resistance exercise, that's the idea. Because you're getting your cardio when you're doing these HIIT workouts. So you don't have to worry about doing cardio and weight days. Do a cardio day and a weight day. Oh man, that's just exhausting. Why don't you just do a third of the work and get all the results? If you're not going into a bodybuilding competition, why do all that? Why work out for an hour or more a day? Studies are showing HIIT workouts are the way to go. So diet, exercise, lifestyle, supplements, medication if you really need to get this under control fast. The problem with medications for me was I got forced to go on blood pressure medication while I was literally unconscious, and I had to keep it up. And when you go off blood pressure medication unsupervised, it can cause some serious side effects. So I didn't want to go through that. So I stuck with those medications for a while before I weaned off of them medically supervised. Now, my doctor wasn't thrilled about it, and my blood pressure is perfect now. Why? Because I'm doing a carnivore diet and inflammation, for the most part, has left my body. Don't forget to get good quality sleep. Maybe a regular sleep schedule is what you should be striving for. If you got a little bit of sleep one night, try and take a nap that day. Make a point of taking a nap on your break or your lunch. Keeping all those things in mind, if you can manage your metabolic syndrome, you're gonna move towards a healthier lifestyle. And carnivore is what corrected 4 of the 5 problems for me. And the one that's left, my waistline, is getting better every month. So that's what you wanna keep in mind. If it's going in a good direction and your blood work is showing you're going in a good direction and your waistline is showing you're going in a good direction and you're feeling better and that means you're going in a good direction, when you have that trinity of issues managed, you know you're doing good. Keep going with it. And consistency is the key. Thanks a lot and take care. I hope to see you in another video.